Hello, how are you? I'm Pia, and today we're going to be talking about all of the books that I read during the month of August. I'm currently in my new apartment in Boston. I can't help the street noise. I did close my window, turn off the fan. I did everything that I could for the sound quality of this video, and I'm still playing around with how I want to film while I'm in my room or while I'm here. And I have my butterflies. That's what we're working with today. So I read so many books in August. I don't know how that happened. I don't have the exact total for you. I want to say it's like 30 books. Obviously so many books to talk about, so let's just get into it. First few books I read for a video where I was reading a bunch of ARCs, which are advanced reader copies, to kind of improve my NetGalley score. I've been getting so many good NetGalley e-ARCs and audiobook ARCs. I'm a little bit overwhelmed, but I'm also very excited about it. For Better or Worse, this is a cooking themed rom-com about a chef who kind of owns a bunch of fancy restaurants, and then this guy who owns a bunch of chain restaurants, and they're on this cooking show together as hosts, but the woman decides to leave the show because she's getting treated very poorly by her co-host and just wants to focus on her own business and stuff, and they start fake dating. I didn't really like this book. I think that it didn't do a lot for me. It kind of played around with the enemies to lovers trope, as well as I said, fake dating, but I didn't really understand why they hated each other so much, and also the complete personality shift with the male main character. I don't remember their names. It's unimportant to me. He was so rude at the beginning of the book, beyond rude, heinous, disgusting, and then was I'm in love with you, and it really just didn't make a lot of sense to me. So I give this 2.5 stars. It was fine. I liked the discussions of women in cooking, and that's about it. Then I DNF'd a book. I don't know how many DNFs I have for this month, but I'm hoping it's a low number. I try not to DNF too many books. Anyways, I DNF'd Cake Eater by Allison Dolan. This is a futuristic Marie Antoinette retelling, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like where it was going. It was super boring. Nothing about this was good. I just really didn't like it. Okay, cool. Then I read Epically Earnest. This is a young adult contemporary, and I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This is centered around kind of a group of 4 friends. We have our main character and her best friend, as well as his cousin and her cousin? Is that right? Am I getting the familial ties wrong? And her neighbor? It's something like that. What is it called? Oscar Wilde's retelling of the Somethings of Being a Nurse. What is it called? Obviously there's 2 queer relationships, which are really great. Our main character is kind of trying to find some answers about her birth parents, and I just think that this did a really great job tackling the topics it wanted to tackle while not being overwhelmed with so many things that it couldn't foreseeably wrap up in the time on the page. I think it was really great. I want to hear more people talking about it. It was really lovely. Like I said, I really love the characters, and I think that it just did a really great job with everything it was doing. Next up, I reread The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is the first book in the King Killer Chronicles trilogy-ish. I mean, the 3rd book is never coming out, so no one knows. I was gonna do a video with these books, and then I didn't end up doing it, so don't worry about it. This is a great book. I don't know. I am not a high fantasy person. That's why you don't see a lot of high fantasies in my wrap-ups, my TBRs, whatever. That is because I just struggle with them a lot. In the fact that I do find so many similarities, so many overarching themes and quests and politics, I find them all to be very repetitive in the ones that I do read. So I don't get wowed by them. I'm not really in that whole fantasy mood most of the time. So this is a book I really love. I feel I don't know if a lot of people know what the plot of this book is, because it's kind of a classic in some way, and that I think a lot of people know about it, but I don't think a lot of people know the plot. It's about Quoth, who is kind of the king killer. He's, I guess, named that to some capacity, and he is this guy who had an incredibly difficult upbringing. It started with him traveling with his parents' theater troupe. Not theater troupe. Yeah, theater. See, I'm mixing up with the next one. Theater music troupe, and how important music and those things were in his life, and then he discovers this magic, alchemy, these sorts of things. Tragedy strikes, and he just goes on this incredibly harrowing adventure of just trying to survive and also learn this craft. And there's romance, and there's a lot of fight scenes and stuff. It just has a lot. I like pitching it as a grown-up Harry Potter. It has a lot of the same origin story elements, but it is very much an adult high fantasy. You know, it's a completely different world. I love the musical aspects of this book. I love the importance of that, the importance of of education is so strong in this book. The like emphasis on like spoken stories and storytelling is also one of my absolute favorite things, is because this is actually a story that is being told to someone to relay into a book. And I love this book. I still have yet to read the second book, Wise Man's Fear. I need to read it, I know I do, but I just am very upset that the third book is like has no date to come out, and I'm very upset about it. Then I read Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I read The Sea of Tranquility a couple of months ago and really enjoyed that, and this is like, I feel like her most famous book, although I think all of her books are quite famous. But anyway, after a pandemic hits this world, it's about this traveling Shakespeare troupe in this kind of post-pandemic environment. It's also flashes back into the years of like pre-pandemic, and it's about the story of Station 11, which you'll find out what that is when you're reading it. There's a lot to think about and a lot to unpack about this book. Like I said, it does give some similarities, like it does have some similarities to The Name of the Wind in like storytelling and the passage of information through words and through music and through stories and stuff. I found this book very good. I just think that the ending was what I didn't love about this book, but I do think that it was really great. I think the characters were all really strong, and the kind of different timelines were very interesting to, like I said, unpack and analyze in some ways. I just felt like the ending was a little bit too easy. Like I feel like this solution was very easy, and that's all I'll say about that. Then I read The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Yes, I finally got this off my shelf if you guys follow me on Goodreads. I started this book forever ago because I had to read it for a class, and then I didn't end up finishing it for that class because someone spoiled me, and I was like, well. But I did end up finishing this book, and I give it 5 out of 5 stars. Did I say I give that 4 out of 5 stars? I don't remember. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I read a lot more of it than I realized. This is a really interesting book because I don't think, again, these books, like, I don't think you would think I would read them and enjoy them, but I really did. Like, this is about a boy and his father, and they again are in this kind of like post-apocalyptic world and are navigating that. It has a lot to do with death and disease and surviving, but it is told in such a way that's just like, I don't know, I really found how it was written very interesting, and I really enjoyed it. It's very sad. It actually surprised me that I cried because I knew how it ended, and I was like, yeah, I still did. So. Then I read The Secret History, which I did a whole spoilery vlog on, so if you want to hear my spoilery thoughts on that, you can watch that video. But if you want to hear my spoiler-free thoughts, I give this 2 out of 5 stars. Now, I understand why people like this book. I have nothing wrong with this book, really. I just didn't think it went there. Like, it had all these like cool creepy things going on, and I just wanted it to go off the motherfucking rails, you know what I mean? Like, I just wanted it to go there, and it didn't. So I don't know, I think again there's like a lot to talk about with this book, which is really interesting. I think it's like a book that a lot of people could like have very different takes on certain nuances to it, but essentially it is about this group of kids who studies Greek, and it's like their whole personality, and some shit starts happening. And that's that. So you can watch my spoilery thoughts in that video. Then I have to talk about a book that I really don't want to talk about, but we're here to talk about all the books I read, so this is what we're gonna do. I got approved of the arc for, I have to like look at the fucking book title because I don't know what it is. Lizzie Blake's Best Mistake. This is a romance. I'm like checking the dial, like, ugh. Anyway, this is a romance, and I hated it. Okay, let me just say that I don't really have this problem with NetGalley that much anymore. And I don't even want to chalk it up to the fact that I requested this on NetGalley without really fully knowing the synopsis. However, I kept seeing reviews like of this book that were so positive, like 4 or 5 stars from all these people that I follow on like Goodreads, on Instagram, everything. And I was like, well, I'm gonna really love this book. And holy crap, holy, no, I did not. This is the worst romance I've ever read. Like, legitimately. I didn't even publish my review on Goodreads. I just sent it to NetGalley because I was like, I gave this 1 star. Like, I don't think my discussion is necessarily going to contribute a lot to Goodreads, but I will quickly go through the things that I didn't like about this book. First off, this is a accidental pregnancy trope. I hate that. Just point blank period. Like, I don't like that at all. If I had known that going into it, whatever, I don't remember if I did. And it's also like from the result of a one-night stand. This guy like moves in with this. Everything about it is so implausible, and that really irked me. You know, the insta love, just everything about this book just felt so fake. And I just felt like all of the characters were so one-dimensional, and you know, our main character was like, oh, she's ditzy and whatever, and like it just, I don't feel like it was developed at all in any sense. And I actually got the audiobook of this, and like I had to force myself to read it. Like, the sex scenes were gross. Like, everything about this book was so bad, and I just don't want to talk about it anymore. Then I read a great book. I read Built to Last by Erin Han. Now this bitch knows how to write a romance. Okay, I give this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now, did I not give it 5 stars? I didn't, but I still loved it. So you know what? This is about these two people who were childhood stars who were on this like children's show together for, you know, 7 years or whatever, and then they kind of lost touch and whatever. They had like been each other's first loves essentially, but it hadn't really gone beyond like once they left the show, and they hadn't really seen each other in a long time, and now they're kind of coming back to film the pilot for a home renovation show, and I believe it's in Michigan because Aaron Hahn's books are all set in Michigan, I want to say. The chemistry of these two people, I adore them. Like from the first page you were like, oh, I'm convinced. Like these two people are already in love and there's so much history there. The characters are great. The banter is fantastic. Like I love Aaron Hahn so fucking much. Like I swooned. I was so invested in the plot of the book as well. I was like very, not just like the romance, even though it is a romance book. I am so happy that I read this book and I love it. I adore it. And I'm so happy for Aaron Hahn. It's her first adult and I'm so excited. Then I read Stand-Up Yumi Chung. It's about a Korean American girl who loves stand-up and she kind of sneaks into this stand-up camp for kids under false pretenses, so her parents don't know that she's doing this. They think she's like doing more schoolwork and studying, and her friends there don't know that she's who she says she is. But this was so sweet. I think I have really reignited my love for middle grade. I was just like, I miss it so much. I haven't read it in so long and I used to read a lot of it. So I gave this out of 5 stars. I think it was great. I think it was, you know, very like simple and straightforward in the resolutions and stuff of the problems, but I do think that it was really sweet and I think kids would like it. So then I read The Honeys by Ryan LaSala. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I don't think Ryan LaSala's books are for me. I really like him. I think he's very cool and I think that this book also was very ambitious. I read his debut and I think I had the same problems that I had with this book. I didn't feel like the plot and the kind of magic, this is like a horror, but it's kind of like, I wouldn't call it paranormal, but I guess I would have to because it's not like a contemporary horror in the sense, so I have to call it that. So I just felt like it was really lacking some like grounding, some backstory, some context, and I feel like that made it harder to understand and harder to enjoy. You know, I liked the vibes, I liked the main character was one of my favorites, but I just didn't love this book. It's about a summer camp. This kid is going back after their sister was like killed, kind of like under mysterious circumstances. And she used to always go to this camp and hung out with this clique called the Honeys, and this camp is like very like hetero and fit into a box, like boys do heavy lifting, girls do this and that, so they completely don't fit in. I can't remember their name, but it was like a really cool name. Mars, fucking sick name. So Mars doesn't really fit in and they're just trying to kind of figure out what the truth is, what really happened to their sister, and I liked it, but like I said, it really lacked that grounding for me to be able to really understand it and sink my teeth into it. Then I read some book for my reading like booktubers kind of series that I do sometimes, and I read some books recommended by Katie Coulson, so if you recognize any of these books, that is why. So obviously you can watch that reading vlog and hear my full thoughts as I read them. But first I read And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer by Frederick Bachman. This is my first Frederick Bachman, and it's like this short kind of novella about, I'm like gonna cry thinking about it. I was sobbing reading this book and I was like, I didn't even know I had the capacity to do this. This kid, and he is talking to his grandfather, and his grandfather is dying, and he's explaining that he's dying, and it is the most wholesome, sweet, heart-wrenching, like I cried, I feel like from page like 10 onward. Like I was like, it was gross, and if you want to see my full reaction, you can watch it. 5 stars. Amazing. It did it so well and so powerfully. Like, how do you eat an elephant? Just like a bite at a time, like stop it. Then I read A Curious Beginning, the first book in the Veronica Speedwell series. I give this 4 out of 5 stars. This was exactly what I was looking for. I am so excited to hopefully read a lot more of these during fall because I feel like they're just the perfect like cozy mystery-ish kind of things. Like they're not gruesome, they're not like heavy really, but they have like a cute little mystery going on. Not cute, but they have like a little mystery going on. They have like this like will they won't they kind of romance, and it's really cute. It did exactly what I wanted it to do, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read The Push. I give it 3 stars. I think that again, I wanted it to go there. I was really thinking this was going to be a lot like Rosemary's Baby, and it kind of is in some ways, but again, like I thought it was creepy, it was eerie in some ways, but I just really wanted more from it. And I think that is usually what I say about things, especially like thrillers and like horror. I just want more because like I'm all for feeling like a little bit unsettled, but I just feel like the plot too has to kind of build and also mirror that and up the ante as you're going. Like I just want there to be more things going on. So then I read A Dowry of Blood. Now I thought I was gonna fucking love this book, and I didn't, and I was so mad about it. So I gave this 2 stars. I didn't like this book. Okay, I loved that it was super queer. I love that. Love representation. However, it was so boring. Literally so boring. Nothing happened. And then everything like happened as you thought it would. Like everything was so predictable, and it was just it was so boring. Oh shit, I got a chair. Now that we're literally almost done with the video, I got a chair. I then read Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, and I adored this book. This was nothing like I thought it was going to be. I think that it does a really good job of kind of like misleading you in its synopsis. It's like this was a bank robbery turned hostage drama. It doesn't really explain at all like the tone of this book or the style of this book. It is written so carefully. Like, I think that is the best way I could describe this. It is so, not intricate, but it's so purposeful in all of the information that the author is like including versus not. The way that it's written is also super purposeful and like super and just really interesting. Like, I think it plays a lot with your assumptions of what you're reading, as well as just like completely just turning those on its head. And I just think it was so expertly done. Like, this is like, I could not write this book. Like, I'm just saying that right here right now. I could not write this book, but it was written so well, and it like genuinely, it's so obviously like it's about anxious people. Like, all of these people are anxious people. They have difficult things going on in their life, in their mind, in their head, in their personal life. They're dealing with grief and trauma, and big emphasis on suicide. There is a specific kind of like symbol of the bridge in this book, and that is completely like, that is super prevalent through the entire book, what that represents to the different characters. And I just think that, again, everything in this book was done super well, and I think it was so like heartfelt and, you know, harrowing at times, but it did so in a way that was so unexpected, so refreshing. You know, it didn't feel like I was reading like something like very just sad and boring. It is unlike anything I've ever read in terms of plot and structure. The narrative is so different, and I just love this book. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Front Desk. This is the first book in the Front Desk series. Like I said, I'm going to read more middle grade because I love middle grade so much. This is about a girl named Mia, and she is managing a hotel with her family to really just like make ends meet. It's so interesting because you really have like the politics of their job, like this kid's like legitimately like working, you know, and then also just like you just see like things like racism and prejudice through the eyes of this little kid. It's really well done. Like, I think that this is a book that is able to be a middle grade that would be, you know, interesting and fun for kids to read about. Oh, what's the shenanigans that Mia's getting up to, you know, working the desk of this hotel? But it really goes deeper than that, as I was saying, especially in terms of prejudice and things like that. And she's learning about those things and different kind of terms especially, and it did a really great job of kind of educating the audience on those things, you know, obviously because it's for a younger audience who might not know about racism and about prejudice in America in like their own lives and kind of like microaggressions and things like that. So I think that it does a really great job of teaching that to this younger audience, to this more impressionable audience, to these like kids that are reading it in a way that's not so overt. It's not, well, we're gonna read this book about racism, we're gonna read, you know, this history textbook, which is necessary, is extremely important. And I think that those sorts of texts, those sorts of more analytical, more black and white sort of things are extremely important, but so are these. You know, these fictional things that are able to weave storytelling, humor, and also education are also extremely important. So I give it 4 stars. I really liked it. I'm really excited to continue with the series. I don't know what's gonna happen next, but I'm excited to find out. The 4th book just came out, and I also just wanted to support this author because I follow her on Instagram. She seems very sweet. She was doing a lot of educational stuff for the things that are going on right now with Barnes & Noble. So the last book that I read in August is Bunny by Mona Noir. Now I want you to raise your hand right now if you think I liked this book. Again, I read this for my Kitty Coulson video, so you can hear my thoughts while I was reading that there. I had a hard time with this book. Looking back on it, I had such a different experience than I have with reading most books. Why am I gonna cry? Like, hello? Because I had so much pressure, I felt, about not only enjoying this book, but like understanding it. Obviously that's stuff I put on myself. It's like really stupid to think about, but you know, all I had heard about this book was like essentially that if you don't like it, it means you didn't understand it. And that was really scary to me, being someone who is on the internet, like publishing my opinions in some ways and sharing them, I guess, and you know, that they're all up for critique in some ways. So I was very worried about that, and just to be kind of dismissed if I didn't like this book because I just couldn't get it. Going into it, obviously I was a little bit stressed. However, I read this book, I read it from start to finish, and I understood every word. I understood the absurdity of every word. And again, I understand why people like this book. I understand that if you like The Secret History, you would like this book. But I had the same experience. I was like, I understand what's going on. I understand how X goes with Y, and like I get it. And I even like went on Reddit later. I was like, maybe I am missing it, like because I didn't really like it. I was like, this is just kind of okay, like give me more. And I looked on Reddit and I was like, yeah, that's what I got for my reading too. Cool beans. I didn't like it. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I'm not an idiot. I'm here telling you I'm not stupid. I just didn't like this book, and that's okay. I, again, would have liked it to go, you know, further. I think I also just don't like this type of book. I don't like books, in most cases, that are so abstract that they don't ever directly address the plot or whatever's going on, or like the story, the narrative, whatever, that they don't like directly, I don't know how to explain this without fucking like talking about this book in the wrong way. Basically what I'm saying is I don't want to have an answer key for a book I'm reading. That's all I want to say. It's like, I want to be able to, I want them to say like a spade is a spade. You know what I mean? Like, I just want there to be a moment where we're like, okay, this is it. This is what we're all seeing. Cool beans? Let's move on. I don't like it just being always so like you're just gonna have to ruminate on it and think about it. You're not sure what's real. That's fine to a certain extent, but again, I just like a good balance of that. And when it's all that, I'm like, what is the point? So those are all the books I read in August. I know my wrap up is late. Again, I just moved and I forgot my laptop charger, so. But yes, those are all the books that I read in August. Let me know how your reading month went last month, and what you're kind of moving forward with in September. Like I said, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.